Hello, everyone. It's Marshall from what will soon formally have been the International Kriegsspiel Society with an important announcement. We are changing the name of the organization. We are going to become the International Miniatures Society. Now, I know you folks are probably laughing right now, thinking, what? Miniatures? Never, not Marshall. Well, as it turns out, I recently had this really cool experience with miniatures I want to share with you that has absolutely and entirely changed my opinion on the idea of miniatures. I know I used to say, that people who played miniatures played with dolls, that you're not playing a real war game, and I've done things like take pictures of the dolls at the toy store, the Cabbage Patch dolls, the Barbie dolls, the action figures, and accused members of the group of playing with dolls when they play with miniatures. But I had this really cool experience with some friends where we had this platoon of Sherman tanks come through, and it was really kind of neat because I was commanding this platoon, and I rolled forward with these tanks. I think I had four tanks in my platoon, and I came up against this formation of two enemy stugs. And it was just this really immersive experience. They were here and they were up here on these hills and they had the high ground. And, I thought it was kind of weird that they were able to depress their barrels enough, but apparently they were just forward enough. And they knocked out my two lead tanks right away. I was like, oh man, that's awful, right? And then I brought up my other two tanks, and I'm like, you guys, you gotta go around on the right. And so they did this, and they were scoring some hits near the Stugs, but then they came in with a flanking force of Panzers, and I'm not going to put them all out. I don't have time for that, but their flanking force of Panzer IVs came in and knocked out my other two tanks. So these guys were all completely wiped out, right? Well, then we had a buddy come in, and my buddy was commanding a Russian force of T 34s. Now, I know it's not particularly historical, but this is miniatures. We're here to have just a good time, right? And so the T 34s came up, and they started scoring hits on the Stugs. They knocked out both of the Stugs. And then they were in this close range duel with the Panzers, but the Panzers had better guns, or at least they were rolling these hits on my T-34s, and the T-34s were getting wiped out. So then we come up with some reinforcements, and we have a KV tank, just one though. And the KV tank was like boom, 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 knocking out the Panzers, right? It was absolutely awesome. And I thought we were going to win, right? But then these Nazgul came in, and the Nazgul came in and started destroying the KV tanks. And I was like, oh no, this is awful, right? So then we finally had the final reinforcement. They gave me an SU-100, anti-tank gun, and I came in and I got one shot before the Nazgul were going to get me, and I scored a lucky shot. I had to roll a six twice in a row, basically boxcars, and bam, that guy's out of there. So I gotta say, this is the most fun I've ever had, and I had no idea how much I was limiting myself by insisting on pushing these silly blocks around and playing this dumb K-22 system, all of this stuff. I mean, this stuff is just ridiculous. Forget about it, right? All of the silly memes. I am done with it, folks. I am completely done. And from now on, we are now the International